Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier, and thank you, as always, for stopping by this podcast. It was with great sadness I learnt over the weekend that Professor Calestous Juma of the Harvard University, had passed away. He really was a Pan-Africanist, an optimist, believed that everything was possible, and we were fortunate enough to host him at Mindspeak many moons ago. We dug out that footage, which was a little bit grainy and old, but have a look, because you will see the sense of his conviction. The House of Representatives approved the biggest US tax overhaul in 30 years on Tuesday. US 10-year yields jumped to 2.46% as the US Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 227 to 203. This paves the way for the Senate to pass late Tuesday, Wednesday, and go onto Trump's desk for signature. US 10-year Treasury yield stood at 2.45% in Wednesday's Asian trade. On Tuesday, it had set a 7-week high of 2.472%, nearing a 7-month peak of 2.477%. So you can imagine people a bit nervous that you could see a discontinuous move to the downside. Yellen on the yield curve, and the yield curve is heading towards an inversion in the US, which means when short rates go higher, then long rates normally presaging a recession. But she's saying this time it's different. I tend to agree with her. Home thoughts: I cannot wait to be at the beach, and Diani Beach in particular. It seems that half of Nairobi decamps to Diani. And the reason is there is a Pied Piper down there. And all the kids, and by kids I mean up to 30, end up in Diani from wherever they are in the world. I tend to like being by the sea myself, feeling the rush and eating bucket loads of fresh crab washed down with lashings of lemon. This is a photograph of Diani Beach that I took in August 2015. The silences here are retreats of sound, like the retreat of the surf before a tidal wave. Sound draining away down slopes of acoustic passage to gather someplace else to a great surge of noise. Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. Like this photograph of a lion by David Yarrow via the Maddox Gallery. And last time we were in the Savo, we didn't see the lions, but boy, did we hear them. At night in particular, it turned out there were just a few feet outside our tent. The shades of the future. There is plenty of talk about how social media, artificial intelligence, and robots will change our world. Virtual reality has received less attention, yet more than 1 million headsets were shipped in the third quarter of 2017, and increases in computing power and bandwidth may make this innovation the next big thing. Virtual reality technology can create vivid, multi-projected environments designed to feel real in some ways. In essence, with virtual reality, we will be able to manage our empathetic and emotional reactions in a manner currently beyond us. Baby elephant walk, photographs from Namibia, very beautiful photograph as well. The reason I've jumped back to Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, you'll see in a moment. It's to do with the Houthi missile strike on Riyadh. But it was Gravity's Rainbow and Bleeding Edge, I consider his best books. If they can get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers, which is an important point. We live lives that are waveforms, constantly changing with time, now positive, now negative, only at moments of great serenity. Is it possible to find the pure, the information-less state of signal? zero. And one of my favorite poems is this: I dream that I have found us both again, with spring so many strangers' lives away, and we so free out walking by the sea, with someone else's paper words to say. They took us at the gates of green return, too lost by then to stop, and asks them why do children meet again? Does any trace remain along the superhighways of July? And my final quote from Pynchon: temporal bandwidth is the width of your present, your now. It is the familiar considered as a dependent variable. The more you dwell in the past and in the future, the thicker your bandwidth, the more solid your persona, but the narrower your sense of now. The more tenuous you are, it may get to where you're having trouble remembering what you were doing 5 minutes ago, or even as Slothrop now, what you're doing here. Political reflections: a ballistic missile is seen after it was fired towards the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Houthi movement's war media handout. Fired toward the Saudi capital of Riyadh from an undisclosed location in the Yemen. In this handout photo released December 19, 2017 by the Houthis movement's war media. That took me back to a screaming came across the sky, and Gravity's Rainbow, 1973 novel from which I was quoting earlier by Thomas Pynchon, which is about the design, production and dispatch of V-2 rockets by the German military. In particular, it features the quest undertaken by several characters to uncover the secret of a mysterious device named the Schwarz Gerät, the black device, slated to be installed in a rocket with the serial number 00000. I was asking about Pyongyang. As the world watches Pyongyang, I cannot help wondering if Kim Jong-un has read Pynchon, which speaks of a screaming comes across the sky. This Yemeni rebel ballistic missile was intercepted over Riyadh. Its target was the Houthis' Al-Masirah TV said the missile targeted a meeting of Saudi leaders at the Yamamah Palace. And if you're interested in what it looks like, this is the royal Diwan at the Yamamah Palace in Riyadh. 13th of November, I wrote a piece about the Saudi Crown Prince. And I said he arrived on the scene and immediately launched an unwinnable war in the Yemen. President Assad, with his Russian, Iranian and Lebanese allies, resisted the regime changes in Syria. IS, which was a Sunni and Saudi blade, has been eviscerated. Iraq, which was once firmly in the Saudi camp, is now aligned with Iran completely. Qatar is lost. See the Intercept article, which refers to a plan headline: Control the Yield Curve, Decide the Future. A plan to construct the Big Short on Qatar. Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi should have spoken to me, because I could have told them how to do it. Because I was on the end of such a big short. Saudi Arabia and its allies UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait are caught in an ever-tightening Shia pincer. The paranoia in the palaces in Saudi Arabia is real and existential. It's a lot realer now, after that missile got intercepted. And what is also clear is that Bibi Netanyahu, MBZ, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Jared Kushner, and a Trump carte blanche have all leveraged this existential paranoia to effect not a state capture, but a kingdom capture. The Guptas were a precursor for this particular capture. The existential paranoia in the head of a 32-year-old wannabe king is evidenced in this comment about Iran in May this year. How can I communicate with them while they prepare for the arrival of al-Mahdi al-Montazar, and not the Salvatore Mundi? Jeremy Corbyn says, I will probably be Prime Minister the next 12 months. I think he will. But I wish he'd pivot now, because it seems that the Remainers are well in the lead. This company could have been the Amazon of sex toys, but botched it, says Bloomberg. US 30-year yield is much higher. Take you back to September 2016, when I wrote a piece called Mirrors on the Ceiling, the Pink Champagne on Ice. And I said then, and it applies now, a lot of risk calculations are based on value at risk, VAR. Essentially, you overlay a volatility measure over the portfolio and you can calculate how much money is on the line. Central banks have suppressed volatility. Therefore, in real terms, investors are now holding bigger positions at these current artificially suppressed levels. And I was saying then, if volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse, or to put it another way, to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the nightman. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And I said, what is clear is we're at the fag end of this party, but lashings of quantitative easing and more lashings, and seemingly endless saga of it all has lengthened the time taken to get to this point, but we're getting close to it now. Let's have a look at the currency markets. Euro dollar stronger, 118.38. European bond yields spiked higher as well. Dollar index below this key level of 93.50 at 93.46. You would have expected a more robust reaction by the dollar on the tax news, and I think that's a bearish signal. Japanese yen 112.96, Swiss franc 0.9853. The pound 133.88, the Australian dollar 0.7662, India rupee 64.035, South Korean won has done better of late, 1082.58, Brazilian real 329.01, the Egyptian pound 17.8550, and the South African rand, which has had this enormous ramp higher, last trading at 12.77. Dollar index, I'm going to put up a 1-year chart. 93.50, around which we're trading, remains the key level as far as I'm concerned, as it has remained for the whole year. Euro versus the dollar, 118.38. My target is now 120.60. Bitcoin, well, that's been all over the place, slumped 10% in its biggest drop since before futures trading debuted. Last trading at back below 16,000 at 15,835. I'm inclined to think that it's extremely binary, right? I mean, it could go up to 50,000, how it could go down to 10. But I'm glad I called it at the beginning of the year, but I think now it's just too risky. Bitcoin 15,750 low, highs of 19,609. Near the lows. And I wrote that piece at the end of November. Bitcoin, wow, what a ride. And I was saying it is a curve, each of them feels unmistakably it is the parabola. They must have guessed once or twice, guessed and refused to believe that everything always collectively had been moving toward that purified shape latent in the sky, that shape of no surprise, no second chance, no return. Parabolic move in the markets is when something goes straight up in a straight line, doesn't come back. Let me leave you with Hunter S. Thompson. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, proclaiming, wow, what a ride. Crypto chaos, Bitcoin spikes back above 17,000 after a flash crash, but it's come back down again to below 16,000. The Venezuelan stock index is up 4,000% this year in local currency terms. Bitcoin's gains look shameful now, quipped David Inglis. Venezuela is living a hyperinflation nightmare. Inflation's at 4,000%. Bloomberg uses it's like a hurricane. Savings are quickly wiped out. Commodity markets. Goldman says stellar demand may fast forward OPEC's exit from cuts. This is a chart of WTI crude oil last trading at $57.70. My target for this now is $64.99. Gold, let's take a look at that, $12.64 trading. A lot of pessimism when we dipped to around $12.41, but I kind of think we're going to hold in here now. Sub-Saharan Africa. These were the founding leaders of IGAD. Do look rather funky, I must say. File photo, human skulls are seen on the roadside near Kananga, Kaisai, central province of the DR Congo. And really that's been a debacle, and he's still unmovable so far. Africa's second most populous country, Ethiopia, is on the cusp of unraveling, and the international community doesn't seem bothered at all, tweeted Awol Allo. More than 500,000 people displaced, hundreds killed per government sources in recent months. Over 80 people killed in the last few days. Then Dirie Jamal, Ethiopian Prime Minister's account of Somalis massacred in Gadula, Oromia is wrong. The people were not in a police station as he claimed. They were under the custody of the army in a hall. The army abandoned them, and they were killed after the killing end of the army returned. 2016 in October, I was writing about how Ethiopia's reputation had been shattered by political tensions. I still think what I wrote then applies now. South Africa, I asked over the weekend, will it be 1994 all over again? Ramaphosa's next move is obviously to work out what to do with President Zuma. He's seen as market friendly and has said we will wash the ANC clean. I tweeted, the market is backing you big, that's the signal in the noise. South African stocks surged yesterday after the election. Goldman Sachs has raised South Africa's 2018 growth forecast from 1.5% to 2.3% following Ramaphosa's victory yesterday. But they say it's too close to call whether he can stop Moody's downgrading the government's debt to junk. South African all shares up 14.84% so far this year. The rand has gained 7.4% against the dollar since the start of the month. The best performer of 16 major currencies, monitored by Bloomberg. Dollar versus rand, last time I checked, 12.78, but my target is 12. You will remember on the 11th of December I wrote a piece about Steinhoff, this man, Christo Visa, with a Midas touch. Steinhoff now says credit facilities increasingly being withdrawn. Surprise, surprise. They put out an investor relations brief on their website. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups if you're interested. IMF says Zimbabwe commits to economic reforms in post-Mugabe era. An IMF mission just concluded its first visit this week to the Southern African nation since the removal of President Robert Mugabe to assess the struggling economy. Fund spokesman William Murray said at a briefing in Washington on Thursday. The government's unsustainable fiscal deficit and severe liquidity shortages which fuel inflation are hobbling the economy, he said. Nigerian all shares up 40.59% so far this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 50.78% so far this year, leading the charge. I expect the Cabinet Secretary to seize the window of opportunity to issue a $2 billion Eurobond in order to underwrite and boost the now. Kenya's 6 7/8 June 2024 Eurobond is yielding 5.58%. Give it a concession, you're going to borrow 10-year money at 6%, that can't be a bad thing. Nairobi all share up 27.61% so far this year, but has corrected 3.31% lower since closing at a 35-month high earlier this month. This is the year that has been for the top tier banks in Kenya. This is from MS Kaplangat. KCB has been the stellar performer. The NSE 20 is up 16% so far this year. Once again, thank you for stopping by.